Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Hampton, and welcome back to the Activate Symposium. And our branding roundtable is our discussion for today. And we're going to be talking about activating your zone of genius through your branding materials. So we're going to have some awesome guests today. I have the question for you: like, what does your program say about your values and about your business? And do you need a strong personal brand if you have a business brand? These are some of the questions that we're going to answer today with our guests that are going to be able to give you the information and the motivation to activate your brand to the next level. Let's introduce our guest today. Our guest here as you see in our round table is, I'm going to start from the top. Peggy is our headshot strategist, and Val Lowe from Map It, and Cassandra from Stargazers United. I like to start these round tables with the get to know you, who you are, let the world know what your brand is, what you do. Let's start with introduction. So, Peggy, introduce us to you and that wonderful brand that you are.
My name's Peggy. I'm in Los Angeles and I am a headshot strategist. Your headshot is most often your very first impression, and I teach you how to use your headshot as part of your marketing strategy.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And then Val Lowe.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ailing, flying in from Vancouver, BC. And my brand is Map It. I take entrepreneurs' ideas, strategies, workflow, and map it onto a piece of paper with color and icons. And I also help them with their message and their brand so they can get out there and make a bigger impact and make bigger revenues.
Awesome, great. And our last but not least, Cassandra.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cassandra Clayton. My company is Stargazers Unite. What I do is I help people really hone in on the visual aspects of their brand, developing their brand, their logo, and their website.
Great. Now, I'm not going to assume that everybody watching here knows what branding is, and this is it's a very important know the value of what branding is to your business. Maybe you just are an entrepreneur and you just jumped right in, and you're here to learn what the value of branding is. So I'm going to start with that question first with our hosts, our fellow host co-host here, and just give me a definition of branding in your own words. If you're talking to a client right now and they're asking you, well, I'm not sure what branding is and is it important. So let's start with what is a brand? Tag, you're it.
Are we jumping in or are you calling names?
I forgot to warn you. I like to jump in. I like to throw the question up and you say, I got it. So Peggy, you started. This is not your first rodeo.
I'm going to say that the definition of brand is a visual of what your company stands for, what it is, and why people should become a part of it, get involved with it, and invest their finances in it.
Wow. Okay. Let's go, Cassandra.
So I feel like your brand is really like you and your story and what makes you stand out and what makes you authentic, and um, the is especially developing something that visually states who you are. That's that to me, that's one of the most important aspects, is you want that look and feel and everything about your company, your brand, everything that's out there to say, hey, this is me.
Great. And Val?
Yeah, it's both of those. I mean, it's not just about the color and the font and the logo, which is really important. That represents you. It's also about the values and those pieces about you. And it's about people loving to talk about your brand because they love who you are and what you do.
Awesome. So you mean I can have a product and have an idea, and it's not just enough to have the product. The product is going to sell itself, sell itself. So I mean, for real, because most people might not think that of a story. And when you think about branding, you're not thinking of what is the story that I'm trying to convey. But let's talk about why that brand is important. Why is branding important before we get into the materials of the branding?
Sorry.
I'll jump in again. I think like attracts like. And when you show who you are as a company, what you represent, what you stand for, then the people that think like you, that feel like you, are going to be, and that need your services, are going to be drawn to that. If I just say, hey, I have a red ball and it's just going to sell itself, well, why is that red ball any different than any other red ball? Why do I need to go buy your red ball? So you need to let your brand, your personality, your values, everything show through everything that you do. Your headshot, your website, your videos, your Instagram, your social media, everything builds the whole package of your brand, and it gives people a reason to be attracted to you and be curious. Hey, what else do they do? I like that.
Yeah. I like that, Peggy, because if it's just a product, it's just a product. So why do people really care about it? But when you put that story behind it and the person behind it, then it brings it to life.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And also, I feel like when you allow yourself to be authentic and you let that shine through, then you are going to naturally attract those people to you that are like you and think like you, and then I feel like it's kind of an all around more pleasurable experience, because then you get to interact and create and do all the things with your people, but you do have to let them know that you're there, right?
Right. No, I feel like I'm in a room full of artists right now, and we use some really good artsy language today. We talk about painting a picture and telling the story, and what I liked about something that you kind of dropped in there and walked away from it was like, it's not just your logo. It's not. And when we think about, our branding materials, because that's what we're talking about. Why is the materials important, and what do they say about you? What are the traditional thing is get your logo and the business card, and they stop right there. And now business cards is almost antiquated. They got the little now they can sync them to your phone and get everything down there, but you're still showing up. So how important is it to have more than one or two different ways of expressing yourself? And let's start with this. Let's start with that question. We still have a whole hour. Let's not rush it. Why is it important to diversify, and not just have one or two modes?
Mostly because you don't. Sorry, I'm just going to jump in. Mostly because you're going to reach clients from every level and from every different place, and so there are places, there are opportunities that you have where you get to kind of control that image, and then there are, like, of course, the opportunities where just random people are coming across your stuff. So you want to make sure that every single time that they touch your brand, no matter when they're touching it, where they're touching it, how they're touching it, how they're seeing you, that you are actually coming across as you and as you intend to come across. So having, you are correct that a lot of the times people do say, oh, get your brand, get your logo, get your website. Okay, stop. No. You have to make also, I continually kind of refer back to a story that Peggy was telling us, because if your headshot doesn't look like you, how does that impact your brand? If you put something out there that's not there was one time I even was looking at following one of my mentors' pages, and all of a sudden she posted something and it was a little bit out of the ordinary, and we're like, what do we do with this? We don't know what to do with this. So it's important that your brand follows and matches all the different things that you stand for, and that you're out there wanting to show the world.
And your brand should also, I'm learning this important lesson, especially when it comes to, because people do judge books by the cover. So that's the whole reason why we're having this conversation about branding materials, is because they're judging you before they even meet you of that quality. And I had somebody when I first started speaking um, share this with me about my speaker one sheet that I want you to evaluate my speaker one sheet. And it was great when I was first starting because I was a first starting speaker. But once I became an established speaker, they were looking at it as like, it doesn't look like a $20,000 speaker, a $50,000 speaker. And that said a lot to me about how you are portraying yourself, or you're downplaying yourself, because you always need to upgrade and show up. So that's, I think he was showing me why that was important, to make sure that your brand is matching the quality and the service that you're offering, right?
Absolutely.
And the
Yeah.
headshot queen was just nodding her head. I was hearing something.
I'm trying to be patient and let Val jump in, but if she doesn't jump quick,
Go ahead.
I'll let Val close it up. Val, listen, quiet mouths on this circle won't eat.
And Val is so reserved and proper. And then when you got us two, I'm sorry, Val, you're gonna have to like bring it. Shut up, Peggy. But I think I want to just kind of build on what both of you just said. We are a lot of different things. I am one person with my husband. I am one person with my children. I'm one person with my friend. I am one person in the studio when I'm, shooting a client. I am one person when I'm consulting and doing headshot strategies. However, that thread is the same thread that goes all the way through, and there's a consistency, even though different parts of me show, in my show and my podcast, all these things, different parts of me come out. But bottom line, there's always a consistent thread. And you always, in all of your marketing, want to make sure that you don't lose sight of that thread. Make sure that that thread is always there. If you do a podcast, you want a headshot that maybe shows you a little bit more approachable, a little bit more fun and happy and, kind of silly, and like, hey, you want to hang out and listen to my podcast, versus your LinkedIn picture or your business website. Maybe you want to look a little bit more like, I got this together. I am so knowledgeable. I am the one you want to invest your money with. But the same common thread needs to be there. So when you're building this picture, don't think that everything has to be in a box, but everything has to follow that thread. So I think with the diversity in your marketing and your diversity in your branding, you don't want to lose sight of that thread, your common goal, your common purpose, your values. All of that should always go and be woven into every single aspect of that.
Absolutely.
Love that. Thank you. Consistency is so important, right from the beginning right through to the end of your brand. Even if we are talking about color and font, it's got to be similar throughout. Like, you can't have purple over here and green over there and great big splashy cursive writing here and Times Roman over there. It doesn't give people that connectivity to you. They feel like, they're a little disjointed. But when you have the consistency throughout, then they can follow you. Then they can follow you, your path, your story, and it just makes a better experience for everybody.
Yeah, I was in a recent training meeting with the company that I worked with, and it was funny because one of this is a mistake made by the training coordinator who's new to the position, and he did this extravagant PowerPoint conversation, right? Did Legos and had everything on it. It was all artsy. And all I could hear was the upper management saying, he's our training manager, he's off brand. Like this is not the company. Like, they were like, and I'm like, why are they so about the brand? But that's what they're, even from the training side, I had to understand, not me looking from the position from the outside in, is that they wanted consistency. And that's important because they want the messaging, even the color. It's ugly fluorescent green color, but it had to be in everything that I put on there. Even when I'm doing letters out, I have to make sure I put the ugly green color in there. Why? Because it's not my brand, it's their brand, and I want to make sure that we're communicating those values. So it is important, and then you should have that just like that company had that investment in their personal branding, is the same way that we have to guard and protect our brand as well. Um, so let's talk about. I'm still trying to get to these branding materials. So when we talk about branding materials, we kind of reference some. So let's do the branding material game. The branding material game, I'm making it up as we go on, is we're going to name as many pieces of the branding materials that are out there. So we already said logo, we said business card, so you can't use that out. What are some other things that should be looked at as your brand part of your branding package?
Your
Go.
website,
Website, okay.
your
Colors.
social media postings.
Okay.
Your digital business cards, your linked app, or whatever digital business card that you use.
Mhm.
So we said social media, we said
Brochures,
brochures,
flyers.
Your emails that go out.
emails, okay.
All your marketing materials.
Marketing period. Okay, now that's a broad thing. So what marketing material?
Posters.
Yep.
Posters, flyers,
Yes.
videos, your
Mhm.
podcasts, everything. I, I mean, every single thing that goes out that is actually connected to your company is part of your branding material.
Awesome. And you know what? That's a cheat answer, but I'll take it. Because you just wrapped everything in a little bow there. But let's talk about this. Your bio.
Mhm.
Your bio, especially because we're all speakers here in some form or fashion, your bio is a branding tool because a lot of times before they speak, before they hear a word from you, or you're approaching a business, that's like almost like just as important as everything else is what does your bio say about you? Because again, your brand is always going to enter the room before you do.
Yes.
You know, talking about bios, it doesn't necessarily have to be all about you. Like, I'm always weaving in about my clients or people that I'm trying to attract in my bio
Mm-hmm.
because it's about them. You know, I want to be on topic about me, but keeping it so that what's in it for me. I don't want to go on with a great big long bio that has all my letters behind me and people just go, oh, another one. But you want to
I
keep it on brand there too.
yeah, I for my bio, I'm like short, sweet, and to the point.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, and it should be.
All
I
that's
think
good.
that different bios. Now, there's people that write their bios. It's like an autobiography. It really shouldn't be 2 pages of somebody reading all of your accolades and all your awards. But I learned from a training I was with yesterday, and it was just talking about just the bio should talk about what you do, how, why they want to be with you, why should they be listening to you, why should they want to be attracted to you, what is the itch or the problem that you are called to heal in that. And then you could talk about how you made some of these things happen with your ABCs and your 1 2 3s that go behind it. But it really made me change how I saw myself, just with that one thing of making sure that you craft the value. Let's see. Monica's in the chat says every connect point that a potential client will actually. So she tied all the thing with what Cassandra said. So those of you who are watching this right now, if you feel like we want to be a part of this conversation, jump in. Just put it into the chat. This is not a conversation between the four of us. We want to make sure that you're a part of this conversation too. We didn't forget you there. So wherever you are in the world, just drop yourself in the chat and talk about and jump right in, and we'll catch it and we'll add you a part of the conversation too. So we kind of said my question about the profile, but let's talk about your profile because your profile and your bio, what your brand says about you. So that's how I can frame this. What does your profile say about your values and those who you're trying to attract? So when we're trying to say we're developing our material, our branding materials, we're talking about now we're trying to create a profile, our identity, and we kind of trying to touched about it. But what should your profile say about you and what you value, and how important is that?
I'd like just to jump in and say that Peggy has a fantastic strategy she takes you through before you even get to the headshot. So you need to find out who you are, what your values are, and then you can present that in a headshot or your material. I think it's just so important to know who you are and what you do first.
Mhm.
So since you threw Peggy out there like that, Peggy, what is your mind? What is your your path to the headshot?
Because I believe that your headshot should be the biggest part of your marketing strategy. Before people come in to do headshots with me, or if you're in another part of the world, before you go get your headshots taken by another person, I have a program that literally takes you through who you are, what you believe, what you want, where you are today, where you want to be tomorrow, what you need to do to get there. And then after all of that, then we actually talk about what you need to, what kind of headshots do you need to help those things be accomplished. You could also use it as what things do you need to write in your materials, what kind of things do you, because I think when a lot of times we don't take the time to think about and answer these questions, we don't even ask these questions, let alone answer these questions. And that is, who am I? What problem do I solve? Why should you come to me? And what is it that makes me stand out? Where am I right now, and where do I want to go? What are my goals? What are my objectives? And a lot of times we get in this survival mode and we're just trying to pay the bills, and we forget why we're doing what we're doing. And if we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, then nobody else is going to know, because we're not telling them, because we forgot. So I think that's kind of the whole key there is be honest with yourself, and be real about where you're at and where you want to go.
Well, and also I feel like identifying those things, actually taking the time to sit down, identify those things, it also makes you a lot more clear in what your packages are, how you can help people, what is the service that you are actually providing people, when you know how you're helping people, because otherwise sometimes you do get people who are like, oh, I do this and I do this and I do this and I do that and I do that and I do that, and you're like, okay, you've just said 10 things and I still don't know what it is you do. and so I feel like by taking the time to identify who you are, what you are, why you're doing it, it can sometimes feel a little bit like a slowdown, and for people, especially when they're like, let's just throw it together and let's go. But it's like when you do take that time to really sit down, focus on those pieces, then you have a really strong foundation to move forward. And then when you combined that with, okay, now we've got these questions answered, now let's move on to like the visual side meaning headshots, websites, all your other things. You can hone in, okay, now you know who you are, what you're trying to do, who you're trying to help, you know exactly who your target audience is. That can affect and impact all of those other pieces. So having those pieces set builds that foundation for moving forward. It's like your launch pad. Now you can go launch and go play and have fun while still maintaining focus. Focus fun.
Love it. I love it. I am amazed how fast the time is going. We're almost halfway through, and I'm like, wow, we've got so much to cover still. But I mean, let's just talk about the power of a name. Okay, and the reason why I talk about that is because your brand, the name that you present yourself by. I kind of said, even when we're in networking environments, sometimes we put our names in there, but we don't tell people what we do. So why is your name important? And why is your company name important as well? And that your company name should have meaning as well.
Cassandra has the coolest names of any of us here, and she's just sitting there.
Let's go with Stargazers United. Go ahead.
It draws people's attention for sure. And also like just some of the feedback. Well, I mean, and for me, it's some of the feedback that I've gotten recently in conversations is people who have gone to my website. They come back and they're like, okay, so you've taken what you do and who you serve, and you've blended them and there's a blend there. And so that blend for me, it allows me to play in, like, for Stargazers Unite, it's a lot of the people that I work with and help are psychics, mediums, tarot readers, people who are in that energy field, and so kind of works. Kind of
But
makes
it gives
sense.
conversation. It does give it's a great conversational piece, and it leads you to have a conversation. Like I love my brand. My brand is Champ I Am, and they swear I misspelled champion. And I was like, no, I said I didn't misspell champion, and this is what my name means. And I said, but once you get a load of Champ I Am, you'll never spell champion the same. But it's like it gets people's attention. It's intentional. So even when you're doing your branding and you're saying, I am, Val, Val's going to be about mapping it. She's going to show you it. That is such a strong brand, because when you think about, if we were taking a brand and we say map it, we're thinking that your destination. We're thinking that you are um, premeditative in what type of direction you're going in. When I think about someone who has a map, that means they're going to take the time to learn how to use it. So there's so many different things when you look about map it that's there. When I look about Stargazers United, you might attract astronomers, but then end up connecting them with astrology. So it gives you into an audience, but it still creates conversation. And we just know that, the headshot strategist, she's gonna make me look good. So, that's so you could tell a lot by the name, the brand. So I was just, because I know I'm crazy with my name, but you don't want to just make up a name. You want to make sure that your name has weight behind it, because that name is going to represent you. I made the mistake of doing this one time. I made the mistake of just calling myself Champ I Am, and the main mistake, I was saying, hey, I'm Champ I Am, and then I realized that I had to start branding Chris Hampton Champ I Am. And the reason why is when I heard the congressman go up there and he said, Champ I Am made great a great impact on the audience, but then when he talked to me, he didn't remember my name. He remembered my brand, but he didn't remember my name. So those speakers that have that dual brand both of yourself. Don't be afraid to brand your name and your business, because your name and your business will go before you. So I just wanted to think about that.
That's
Right.
That's a great point. I'm Headshots by Peggy, and I am a headshot strategist. But I think that it is important that people remember your name. Um, I was doing a, a shoot for a band. They got their star on Hollywood, and at the middle of the day, they said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just a photographer." And he stopped and he looked at me and he said, "No, what's your name?" And for some reason, that made such an impact on me. And I said, "I'm Peggy." And he said, "Peggy the photographer, I won't forget your name." And the rest of the day it was like, "Where's Peggy? She's our photographer. Where's Peggy?" And it really said something about, yes, it's important that people know who I am, not just, and I'm Headshots by Peggy, so I've always kind of morphed into what I do, but I'm Peggy, and that's important. And it just feels different when you're recognized as both. So I'm glad you brought that point up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's an energy that comes from that, and we're going to talk about the energy, because we're going to switch over to even something that people take for granted. We're going to talk about colors. So even when we talk about the energy that you give off, all that's a part of the package. And remember that they're buying you as much as they're buying everything that comes with you. So and that's what I'm learning now. Headshots by Peggy. Why I'm learning headshots and pictures are important. And a lot of times I was running around with a picture of me of 5 years ago, and not realizing that I don't look the same as I did 5 years ago. Just a little bit heavier, a little bit thicker and muscular, but I wasn't the same person 5 years ago. So, and it says a lot about your journey too. So you can't be afraid to talk about the pictures, because like almost like a map for my journey. Look like the guy that was building Amazon out of his garage, but here I am on top of the world. So people need to see that. Your brand tells a story of your journey too. I want to talk about how important colors are. Let's talk about colors. I'm colorblind, so I need help. But talk about the energy that even when your branding colors can go before you and mean something as well, and why it's important that you have the right color scheme and what. And we'll go into a little bit further. But let's answer that question first.
You,
Yeah, I'd
oh,
like to jump in if you don't mind.
yes, sorry.
Sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Color is so important, but we've just talked about who you are, what you do. I went through a rebranding process of one of my brands, and we talked about that. We talked about all these pieces, and it became really clear where my brand needed to go. Like we could have gone this way or that way or any other way, but it actually brought in all those pieces that were me, that I wanted to bring into my brand, and then that's how the color came. I mean, I have to say I'm really set on one particular color, and we stuck to that. But there's other colors that became involved in that piece that really show up my brand now. So it's just color is really important. I mean, I like red, but I don't want everything I got in my branding to be red. I like a red highlight, but not red like some people who are very vibrant and fiery, and red's a perfect color for them. I think we know someone here that looks really good in red, but she's not on film right now.
Well, and well,
Kathy, go ahead.
and so we stumbled into my favorite topic because colors themselves, each color has its own energy. Every color in the color wheel has its own energy, what it projects, not just what it projects, but what it brings in for you. What does that color represent? And so a lot of the times when I'm talking to my clients, when we're looking at colors, first we always start with like, okay, what are you drawn to for this project? Because we want you in there. But then we're going to go to that color wheel, and we're going to actually look at what do those colors actually represent? What are the energetics around those colors? Does that actually match what it is you're wanting to do with your business? And if so, fantastic. We've hit the target. Good job. If not, maybe we just need to adjust maybe we're right in the right hue, but we just need to adjust around a little bit until we can hit boom, just that to make it go wow.
And that might sound like weird when you're hearing that, but there's a whole psychology.
There is.
Listen, she was talking about holistic, and she's talking about we say energies and make it one day. You want to make it sound legit, then there's a psychology of color, but it's the same exact thing that she just said energy was. So don't zone out of it. There are whole people in marketing companies that actually are focused on dealing. There's a reason why that company has that color, the green, that I didn't like, but there's a reason why that is there. That is there. So I didn't want you to discount that. Because really there is validity in that, and does your brand reflect your color? And like I like black and gold, but that's mine. But there's a certain strength with the pictures I take that come from that, and I like that. So it communicates. Does your colors reflect you as well? And it's like weird. You're looking at it and saying, guys, you're probably listening to this right and say, I didn't realize that the brand took all this thought.
Right.
To make this happen. Like you have to be intentional to make your business success. Your branding should take some thought. You should and you should, if your people that you're dealing with, business card people, they're not having conversations like Peggy's having, you need to find another way, because you need someone who's going to bring that out and get you thinking outside of just surface. What do you think?
I want to add a little bit to that about color. I would go as far as to say color is literally everything. The psychology of color is so powerful. Don't think for a second that McDonald's and Burger King and these things just happen to pick a color. They are strategically colored, and to the point of where the colors are placed in what rooms and the booths to make you want to spend more money, to entice your appetite, to all these things. Literally, physically, color will change you. I always say we don't pick our favorite color. Our favorite color picks us. When we are little, we see a color and it makes us feel a certain way that we like. And so then we start going to things that are that color because we like the way we feel when we're around that color. And then all of a sudden, all of our family sees that we always have blue. So they're like, Peggy's favorite color is blue. And so you grow up and my favorite color is blue. Why? Because blue was calming and comforting to me, and it, as a child. And that is why there's reasons for everything. There's reasons that I have blue. I'm a photographer. I want a calm, trustworthy environment. But I also have a splash of orange on things because I also want the vibrancy, the excitement, and the intent, the draw to spend more money than you normally would. I literally researched and decided what colors would work best for me and my business to draw people to me and to have them spend more money with me. None of this should be taken for, the colors that you wear when you're getting your headshots taken, the color of the background. These are all things that are going to make a subconscious impact on the people that see them. So Cassidy and I could talk all day about color, so I'll go ahead and leave it there because we have literally talked all day about color before, the two of us.
You want to know it's funny as you're talking, Cassie's lighting up like, yes. I'm looking at Cassie's face and she's like, do you want to say something, Cassie?
I think that when Monica put the three of us on this panel, she underestimated. She should have had three questions because
Also, it's an hour time limit. We can talk forever. But Kassan, you want to add to that, and Val?
Well, I agree with color because I was going along in my business, doing what I do with, branding and messaging, and brought some color into my life. But Swift, I'm using Map It now. I've got oodles of colors I use now. And it's just so important. I mean, what color to use with which icon or logo or whatever you're going to be doing with. It's just really so important to and I mean, if you're colorblind, I'm sorry about that, but color is just so important.
I'm not really colorblind. I let me stop making colorblind people look bad. I just can't match to save my life. But it's good. I saw Colleen put out there that her power color is purple. So everybody has a different thing. I love that. I just want people to be open to the possibilities of your brand, and that we should be intentional from everything that we do. So let me talk about this. We're talking about the power of the brand, and there are some of us right now that are like me that are dualpreneurs. So, I work for a company and they have a brand. Well, if my company has a brand, do I need a personal brand?
Yes. Is that a question I can jump into?
Yes.
I would like to.
I just throw the question out. Great.
Yeah, it's so important. I just listened to someone recently. Her name is AJ Vaden. She does personal branding, and she did a research, like a really in-depth research about personal brand. And she said you have to have a personal brand, even in the large companies. People want to see someone they can relate to. They want to see that person. I mean, you got the company, but you really need to have a strong personal brand. And within an organization like yourself, Chris, if you're working there, you still need to have that personal brand so that you can show you and your value and how you can really, make a difference in that company as well.
I love it. And I think what people miss out on a lot of times, being serious right now, that's my serious face, is that when you're doing an interview, right, you are branding yourself. And when you're going on a job interview, you are presenting your brand, your services, your skills, and you're negotiating for a position. And so when we think about what we do, is what is the brand that you represent? It's so sad when I look at some of the young people that come to interviews and they come just they don't even wear suits and ties anymore to interviews. Like they just walk through the door. It just shows like they didn't put any thought into it. But they don't know and they don't understand that there's a whole branding that you brought to the table, and people are judging you as soon as you show up. So I thought that was important. What else do you think about that, Peggy or Cassandra?
I like the fact that you brought up the dual on entrepreneurship, because I'm actually in the process of bringing forward a second company right now. And so with both of my companies, because it's, I've got branding and logos for both of them. And they're both very strong. So I'm like, okay, let's make sure that I'm still seen. And so I think part of that can be, when you like go to your social media page, on my header, there's my logo and there's immediately a photo of me. So I'm tied in a lot with my companies. And when with the second company that I'm bringing through, there's actually pieces that, like, they both have their very own unique look and feels to them, but there are aspects that are similar, so that it's like they still came from the same place. There's still that consistency, but they, so they're like sister companies, and you can tell that they're related, but they're brand siblings.
Siblings,
Yes.
I love that.
So, like, I think when you are dealing with multiple brands like that, I think it's okay to have like some aspects that are similar across the board. You can play with the colors, you can make them very different and unique as far as certain things, but then like having some similar aspects that when people are seeing it, they still are seeing you. Right. They're still being seeing you represented. I mean, of course, you don't want to get to the point where you have like thousands of companies, but like, especially for us people who have like a couple different companies that we're working with, to kind of have those similar strands, so that when people see this company and that company, they're still seeing aspects that it's kind of like what Peggy was saying. It's like you're this person with your spouse, you're this person with your kids, you're this person with your work, but there's that core strand that weaves.
And tying that together is it's what's interesting is when we say dualpreneurship, it's different things. So I have a full-time job and an entrepreneurial job as well. And what was funny was the manager or my VP that was going around, he was giving everybody nicknames. It was like, we have nicknames here. We got nicknames here. And basically he was like, well, what do you want us to call you? And you know who me, I'm Champ I Am all over the world. And so and then he knew I was Champ I Am. I said, no, people call me Champ. So and I said, and what I learned about that is that people will respond to what you call them, what you tell them. Exactly. They will respond to what you tell them or what you don't tell them. And a lot of times what you don't tell them, they will create a brand for you. Yes. And the question that I asked you is, they're listening, and have you ever fallen into a situation where your brand was not, you have a brand that's in here, but the brand that you are portraying out there doesn't match the brand that's in here? And that's very important. So I saw Peggy nodding. Yes, Peggy, jump in.
I think that's you nailed that right on the head. If you don't tell the story, they're going to tell their own story. So it's our job to tell our story so that they know what our story is. Otherwise, they will make up a story for us. And Cassidy, thanks for like taking my words in your thing. Like, that was really awesome, by the way. Like, I was going to say that, but it's cool. I'm cool with you. No, but that's true, because if you think about, if you work for this company, you work for them because there's something about you personally have something to offer that company, right? It doesn't matter if it's a big bank, if it's whatever your big company is, you're there because you have something to offer them, something unique. So it makes sense that you have that personal brand inside that company, because you make that company better because you're part of it. Now, obviously, your brands can't collide. You want to, respect. Like I think, I heard you mention earlier, like their color's ugly, but I still put it in my in my emails. You want to make sure that you keep that thread.
Mm-hmm.
Let them keep their thread. Their thread has to be involved in that too, because you are in a relationship with them.
And that's so
You
true that
have
you
a
put it.
commitment to them. Just like I have a commitment to my husband, you have a commitment. You represent them. So you need to make sure that you respect even their ugly colors
Mm-hmm.
and, let that thread go through. But at the same time, show your own personality, because you're there because you have something to offer them,
And I
something
think
unique.
that's so powerful that you say that is that, like, I believe I win wherever I pop up. That's why Champ follows me, right? So that's, hey, wherever I win, wherever we're gonna win. You want me because I'm a winner. But that's a part when we look at branding and co-branding together and being able to see that. I didn't. They taught me the lesson that branding was important, and that was a very important lesson that I didn't even see because I, like I said, I feel my way, and I'm like, okay, I stumbled into this, and I didn't realize how important it was. But then what I did recognize was how all these top officials they were just dogging the dude on the email chain. And I was like, wow, is it that important? And it said it's that important. No matter how great the information was, it was now taken over because you were off brand. And they're distracted from your brand now because you're off brand.
Yeah. And I think it's important too that when you're starting your brand or you're rebranding, that you make sure you let people know what you do and who you are. And you
Yes.
just keep that content, telling people, just continually telling them who you are, what you do, who you are, what you do. And then that's how you can build your brand much more stronger than if you just let people come along and decide for you.
And I think that's important, Bob, because you know what? Because a lot of our entrepreneurs that are out there are visionaries, they have scattered attention. So what happens is, have you ever had a friend? I'm not talking about you. Have you ever had a friend, right, that had so many different businesses that the people didn't know, and then they think they have a support problem, but they don't really have a support problem. They have an identity problem because
Yes.
they were doing so many different things. They're like, well, you were selling pots and pans the other day, and then you were selling medication the other day, then you were selling real estate the other day. I don't know what I get when I'm in you. You're all over the place. And then when you finally find your right brand, now you have to take the time to rebrand. And what's going to have to happen is you have to become more consistent
Yeah.
than you were with your inconsistency. So you got to be patient. You you didn't create that mess overnight. Now your life has to now represent the brand that you want, and that takes consistency. Wow,
Right.
we are at that 10-minute mark. The 10-minute mark. Y'all think you have given them so much. I don't know, but I'm going to ask you one more question each. One more question each. Share your last PowerPoint, your power branding point. This is the point that is so poignant that you want to leave them with this thought about branding that they will never looking at branding the same again. So I'm going to start with Cass.
I think that it's probably already been covered, but I think it's the more authentic and true you can be to yourself, the more you're going to be able to attract the right types of clients. And also, kind of to the point that Chris was saying, it's, at least give something 90 days. Make a decision about something and at least give it 90 to 100 days to work for you before you go and start changing it. Because that time frame gives people enough time to see what it is you're doing, and then you can figure out whether or not it's working for you.
Love it. Love it. Let's go with Pal.
Yeah, I'd like to say that be in alignment with what you do, the work that you do best, what you're bringing to the world, your mission, your passion, what you're bringing to the world, and your brand. So just come into alignment with all those pieces and be authentic, like Cassie's saying. And I think that you're really going to do well in the world if you can just get yourself into alignment with who you are and what you do and your brand, and not having a whole bunch of different pieces, but being very clear on what you do.
Awesome. And last but not least, Peggy, Headshots by
I have
Peggy.
9 minutes, right? Yes. People don't buy products and services. People aren't loyal to products and services. People are buy and are loyal to people. So people know who you are. Let people know who you are, what your causes are, what you're passionate about, what your purpose is in doing what you do, so that they can be loyal to you and buy your services and your products, because that's what people want. People want to know, why should I give you my money? Why? What do you represent? And I think, I don't remember who mentioned it, but you said, maybe it was Champ. If you don't tell them the story, they'll create their own story. So I think that's the key. Make sure that you are sure who you are, you're authentic with that, you convey that so that they can join up, be loyal to you, and buy your services and products.
So we heard authentic alignment, and intentionality. So those are the things. If you didn't walk away with anything else today, you got some time to really go back and think about the brand that you want to be, whether that's your personal life, your professional life, your entrepreneur life, your family life. There's a brand with everything, and somebody is looking at you and trying to figure out who you are. You need to make sure that they don't have to think twice, that they know who you are when you walk into that room. You've come through another hour of the Activate Symposium Roundtable. And again, it was my honor to sit with these wonderful guests, Peggy, the headshot strategist, Val Lowe from Mapit, and Cassandra, the Stargazers Unite. So, and again, my name is Chris Hampton, and I am Champ I Am. I'm your host. And again, this is a subsidiary of the Mink Life University, which was done and created by Monica Henderson. And again, this is a community that you want to definitely connect to. If you like the conversation that you had today, you're going to love the community, because it's just us on steroids. All right, we're like this all the time, but just connecting across the world. And we're not only just connecting here, like British Columbia, what's that, Canada? We're not only in Canada, but we're in the United States and New Jersey. We're in Australia. We're in Africa. We're in London. We're throughout the world. And when things happens, the community makes the world smaller. And you want to be a part of the community that's going somewhere. So definitely connect with Mink Life. And we would love to be a part of your new family. And we want to thank you for the time that you have spent with us, and hope that we have shared something that takes your brand to the next level. Again, my name is Chris Hampton, Champ I Am, and we're going to say goodbye. Thank you.